Hello, welcome to a new episode of Mostly Engineering and Let's Modify the Milling Machine. Welcome to this episode, and today I want to modify the milling machine, my little Proxxon MF 70. And if you have seen the last video, you know that this little machine has some shortcomings. And one of which is that we can't accurately gauge our Z height. And this is exactly something I will need to continue on the rotary build. So we have to do something about it. And while we're adding, we will also extend the range of the Z-axis a little bit. So with no further ado, let's go over to the milling machine, look at the problem in detail and see what we can do about it. So, and here we have the milling machine, and one of the problems is that we can't really read the indicator for the Z height over here. If you sit in front of the machine, you can't see it at all. And if you lean over to see it, your head usually casts a shadow so that you can't really read this black on black contrast. Also, the increments over here are not as fine as I need for the next project. And the solution to problems like this is very simply an indicator, and in cases like this I really like the digital ones. So what we need to do is mount the indicator somehow to our motor and therefore to the tool, and then when the tool moves up and down, our indicator moves up and down, and we can read by how much it moves. So how do we mount it on here? Now, one option would be to indicate against the table directly, but I don't really like this because the space we have on here is already at a premium and I don't want to lose anything for indication as well. Also, I want to ensure that the table still has its full range of movement. So the indicator has to sit somehow somewhere here. So we need a bracket that extends to here, and we can put the indicator here. This gives us the next problem, that here we don't really have something to indicate against. So what we are going to do here is we take the Z column off and then put a little bracket in here that extends outward so that we have a surface to indicate again. And the big advantage of doing it this way is that we also lift our Z column a little bit, because at the moment we can go down very far. So if you see something like this, and now it stops because I'm not sure if it's because our spindle run out or if it's because we hit the bottom of our T-slot. But usually I don't want to cut that deep. Usually I don't want to cut in the table at all. I mean, you see, I've done it, but that wasn't intentional. So we can lift the Z height by probably about 2 centimeters with the bracket, and then we have a nice indicator and also a little bit more range on the Z height. So that's the plan. So now we have to make some measurements. Then I draw up the parts in CAD and we're going to 3D print it. First I thought about machining, but I want to lift this by 2 centimeters, and then the indicator pose has to be a little bit higher, even more. And first, I don't have the material for it, and second of all, 3D printing is a lot easier. In this case, we can easier prototype, and I'm going to use an engineering resin, Tech Blue, and the big advantage of this resin is that we can work on it with the lathe and I guess also the mill. And so if it gets a little bit wonky in the 3D printing, we can parallel them up on the milling machine nice and easily. So that shouldn't be a problem at all. So let's get some measurements, then draw up the thing in CAD, and I see you back when I have the ready printed parts. So, and here we have our 3D printed parts. So first our bracket came out really nicely. We still need some reaming of the hole here, cut a thread so that we can actually mount our dial indicator, but the part came out really nicely. Of course, some sanding over here, but what really impressed me is our lower part. So we have 5 holes for some magnets so that we can stick a gauge block on here, or a set of gauge blocks on here to have a nice surface to read off. And what really impressed me is how parallel these two surfaces actually are. So I printed it in this orientation so that we don't have any pull forces on these surfaces. And the target is exactly 2 centimeters. And if we take the measurement, that's bang on. And all the other surfaces, we see we are everywhere just a couple of hundreds off. And by the time we are at the tooltip, this arrow will be so small that it doesn't matter anymore for what I'm going to do with it. So we don't need to do any flat milling at all, and I'm really impressed by this. And all that I have to do now is sand off all the supports, give it a nice coat of color, and then mount everything to the machine. So, and here we have the finished machine, and it looks really nice. Now, on the lower bracket, we had the problem that we had to enlarge the holes a little bit so that it actually would fit, because probably I made a slight mistake measuring the distance between the holes, but enlarging the hole just did the trick, and therefore our z-axis has 2 centimeters more of range in the upper area. Very nice. And of course we lost 2 centimeters on the lower area, but these 2 centimeters would only be useful if we want to cut into our table, and as we don't want to do this, we will be fine. And of course, as you can see, we have now a nice hole for our indicator, and yeah, this is much easier to work with and read than the Z indicator we will have here. And of course, way more precise than this thing could ever be, even if we could see it properly. So let's test it out. We have a set of gauge blocks here. The last one is 3 millimeters, and we are at 0, so let's move down by 3 millimeters. Feels nice and precise, very nice in control. And there we are at 3. And when we lift and take the gauge block away, we are back at 0. Very nice. So yeah, it works just perfectly. Of course, we will need a proper measuring tip down here, and I also ordered a set of extension tubes so that we can arrange for different heights when we are working and don't need that high of a stack of gauge blocks. But other than this, it works out really nice, and I'm very happy with the result. And with this, it's time to end the show, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, comments, as always, let them down below, and I try to answer them as quickly and correctly as possible. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And all that I have to say now is thanks for watching, and see you at the next time. Bye bye.